Okay, we started on the build of the Electro, and I need to start with the scale. So I was going to start with the motor I was going to use and kind of scale everything around that. So we have two leg sections. This inner part's going to fit inside the body, and obviously all the motors and stuff will be inside the body. I was initially looking at three different ways of doing the walking. In the end, I decided to use the simplest way because it would make the least number of different parts of 3D print. You know, sometimes a project require a separate left and right leg and separate left and right ratchets and on and on and on. This one will use the same leg, whether it's on the left side or the right side. It'll use the same ratchet wheels, whether it's left or right or front or rear. It's all the same. And of course, the actual ratchet levers, which I'm going to show you in a second, underneath here, there's a front and a rear, but at least there isn't a left and a right. So in this version, let me hook up the 3 volts here. We're going to have this type of walking action. And in case you can't see what's going on, I'll get a little bit closer. You've got a main cam, and then you've got the legs, which travel on dual pins that hold them in place. And the pins are brass rods. Right now I'm holding them in place with tape, otherwise they'd be falling out on the ground while I'm trying to show you this stuff. You can buy the brass rod at hobby stores. I bought mine off Amazon, and the nice thing about brass rod is you can cut it with little hobby saws. They can get like this at hobby stores and online. Sometimes they look like this. You only have to cut about halfway through, and then you can snap the rod and just file the end smooth. So it's real easy to do in the house since we're like 2 degrees outside. And cut the rods front and rear. Maybe I should take a set of rods out. Let's see if I got something to poke a rod out with there. So we can look at the assembly of this. Here we go. So let's take that one out. And that one out. And so that brings you down to this leg. Now the leg prints as one piece. It prints like this on the printer, and I'm using tree supports on the bed only. So it's going to block in this area in here that you're going to see better in a second with supports. And other than that, it just runs a few little supports up to these 4 corners. The rest of it prints as you see it. These are just some nails. I haven't decided whether I'm going to cut the heads off and just leave the shafts inside, or leave the head showing, because I kind of like the way it looks. But these are the ratchet wheels. Like I say, there's only one wheel. There isn't a front and a back or a left or a right. So just one file. Obviously you do orient them differently, whether they're in the front or the back, because in the front one there's a ratchet on the top that'll clicks this way and then locks this way. So when the foot moves forward, it can turn. When it moves back, it uses gravity to lock, so it's hard to demonstrate otherwise. And here you can see how gravity is controlling the rear one, which locks on the bottom. So this way it latches, spins free and latches. So there's one nail that's holding both the ratchet arm for the rear and for the front in place. And I'm going to pull this nail out. You can see there was the rear ratchet arm, and here was the front ratchet arm. Other than that, you just have wheels that are simply being held in place by the nails. And of course, rubber grommets I've covered many times. You can buy rubber grommet kits. We've got a Harbor Freight locally. You can do it online too. And they sell kits of just all sizes of rubber grommets. Dirt cheap. They used to be less than 10 bucks. I don't know if they still are or not, because I've had the same kit for so many years. As you can see here, this would have been filled with support. There's no region it couldn't bridge, but it puts it in there and it just pops out as one clean little block. Let's get this off here. The motor just slides in from the top I'm using 632 screws because they just automatically tap into these TT motors, and it's a common screw here in America. The cams, it's the same cam whether it's on the left or the right side, so again on just one file there, and they fit really snug, but I was able to pinch them onto the shafts of the motor just with my fingers, and you just pinch them on until they're flush here. You don't want to go too much further because, you know, one side of the TT motor always has that little dipple sticking out, and if you push it in too far it might end up being something this could hang up on. Now this post, I'm planning on using this post to make the arms move, you know, like what we like to see our robot toys do. So there will be holes pre-made in the cam, which you may or may not need to drill out. And then this, again, this is just one of the nails, like I was using down here in the feet, and pushed in. You don't want it sticking out the backside so it can bind on anything, and then trimmed so that it stays inside this box area so it doesn't hang up on that. And that's pretty much it. So you can cram those cams on the motor while it's out in the open. You can slide the motor down in, screw it in place, cut your rods the same length as this thing is, which is what? Let's get the old calipers out here. It's 3mm rods, by the way. So it's 45.27. I think I just cut my rods at 45 millimeters long. Those two are still in there being held on by the tape. So that's what I have at the moment. Obviously I'm working on the body next. What else I want to say? Oh, in this design initially was going to use separate nails, separate shafts for the front and the rear ratchet. Then I decided, no, it's much simpler just to do one. So this extra hole will be removed in the next generation of this foot design, so there'll just be, you know, the two wheel holes and the one ratchet screw hole. So what else I was going to say? Oh, I got an email. I'm going to move you closer here. I got an email from a guy, and let's get his name. These are pictures. David, it's D-A-M-I-C-O, so I don't know if it's Damico or Damico. But he took these pictures at the museum where Electro is, and they're very helpful because they're very clean. They're much larger than the small ones that I could find online. But some nice close-ups of the head, close-ups of the original hand, and some of the other Westinghouse robots. They've made fiberglass reproductions of it. As I understand it, this one is the original because it got modified through the years with a square box, and for whatever reason. As I understand it, back in 1939 at the World's Fair, it was a gold color though. In later things like Sex Kittens Go to College and the other movies, it definitely looks very much like polished aluminum or painted silver. Again, some nice close-ups of the heads, and here's actually some pictures of the inside mechanics that were in there. Like I say, I do have this Radiocraft magazine. I just don't remember for sure where it is, and it's too cold to go out rummaging in my storage unit out there. I mean, we've been below zero here and in the teens for high during the day. It may warm up in the next couple of days, so I might wander out there. Yeah, Sex Kittens Go to College. There he is there, painted more of a silver. But here you can see he looks very shiny. He doesn't particularly look gold by that time. Legs straight up and down in that pose. This is the actual guy that has the link to these pictures. Now I don't know if we can link to these. I'm going to try. So if you go into the documentation box below this video, I will try to include this link in case you want to go there and peruse these wonderful pictures yourself. Stay tuned for the next video. We'll have a body and maybe an arm update.